Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Tech Talk Q&A. We are going to go through some of the news from my newsletter, and I'll tell you what the significance of a lot of those stories mean. And I'll also take some question and answer at the end. Anyway, let's get going. Well, actually, let me see here. I don't seem to be focused, so I am going to, all right, there we go. Sorry about the close-up zoom there. I just wanted to make sure that I was in focus, and it has like a focus magnifying assist on my camera. So anyway, yeah, now that I'm in focus, I did put this on manual focus, so it's better. Let's take a look at some stories from my newsletter. Let's share an application window. That one looks good. So let's take a look. All right, so here is my newsletter. If you're not subscribed, please take a look at, you can subscribe by clicking on the link down in the show notes. But, if you get forwarded this newsletter or something like that, you can always sign up there too. Anyway, here it is, Bitcoin Tech Talk. You can follow this newsletter on Twitter at Bitcoin Tech Talk. And it has links to this stuff. Anyway, here is the latest issue. I released it this morning. There's a bunch of news that's going on. Usually it's Bitcoin related, Lightning related, or something else. So let's start with an article that I wrote about the end of the year, 2018, the year that Bitcoin separated from the pack. So I wanted to write sort of like a year-end article. I wrote one last year for CoinDesk, and that was about how Bitcoin became anti-fragile. I thought that 2018 was more of the year where Bitcoin was really separated from the pack. Now, everyone knows that, or at least if you guys are watching here, at least you know my particular opinion that Bitcoin is the only decentralized digital currency out there. Pretty much every altcoin is not. There's a central founder or foundation or development team or something that basically controls the whole thing. Bitcoin is unique in that it does not have something like that. But that's something that I think the public has more or less started to recognize. It's not, centralization has some serious downsides, and that's what I look at in this article. I look at it from three different perspectives: the social, the technical, and the economic. And of course, the economics, the one that everyone talks about, largely because of the large price drop in the past year. And I talk about how that while Bitcoin's, dropped a significant amount, altcoins and ICOs have dropped even further. And in a sense, this is good for Bitcoin because you shook out a lot of weak hands or people that came in just to speculate or gamble. But for a lot of altcoins, they still have a lot of the centralized players, and it's not necessarily good. You don't get to shake out weekends in the same way because with decentralization, everything is voluntary. With centralization, you're sort of forced to keep the centralized players that were there before. So there are issues with that, and that's what I talk about in this article. Anyway, take a look if you haven't, or if you missed it or something like that. It's one of the two articles in this newsletter by me. All right, here's another one that's really good. Jameson Lobb's Bitcoin by the Numbers 2018 recap. He goes through a lot of stuff here, and for some reason the images aren't loading, but it's some really good visuals. There they are. So first thing, kind of funny, how many people proclaim Bitcoin to be dead? Surprisingly, only 90 people in 2018 declared Bitcoin dead. It looks like 2017 was a year of obituaries at 125. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know if that means anything, but we saw more of a spike, I think, in 2014. So it's a little strange. General interest. It looks like South Africa is gaining, Ghana, Netherlands, Slovenia, Nigeria. Netherlands is really the only Western country out of those. So very interesting as far as relative interest with respect to search. You got daily visitors to his website, and It's been bottoming out, and this is pretty much the price graph, I think. So interesting there as well. I think Andreas told me a while back that his book sales were correlated with price almost exactly. It didn't matter if he did all sorts of other promotions. That price was the best indicator of how many of his books that would sell. So I'm probably looking forward to that as well for my book. All right, here's another one. The rate of new subscribers to RBTC. It surprisingly reached 1 million people, which is kind of crazy. All right, so academic interest. There's a lot of new articles about Bitcoin coming out in academic journals. There's certainly a lot of grant funding available for this stuff because it is seen as more practical. I didn't know this until some academics told me, but the easiest way to get a grant is to make a case for how it will actually affect the economy and how it will produce new things, in industry, basically. So it's interesting, but I imagine that's why this has been growing. Archive papers mentioning Bitcoin 26. Funding and forking. Okay, so for some reason the images aren't coming in again. So let's hope that it does. Okay, price and volatility, funding and forking. Okay, ICO bubble. Wow, that's a lot of venture capital funding. Over 3 billion last year, and this is during a bear market. Kind of crazy. Funds raised via ICO, 16 billion in 2018 versus only 5 billion in 2017. No, I mean, that's kind of crazy. Of course, Ethereum peaked a little later than Bitcoin, so that might have something to do with it. Bitcoin Cash appears to have caused chaos in the markets yet again, this time with its own contentious hard fork. Yeah, that was an interesting correlation there, the drop in price with and volatility right around the fork date there. 36 crypto assets have the word Bitcoin in their name. 1 is Bitcoin. Yeah. Let's see here. Percentage of total. Yeah. So market dominance continues to go up for Bitcoin, and this generally happens in bear markets. On-chain transactions. The volume peaked in early this year, and it's dropped to about 3 billion daily transaction volume, $3 billion worth of Bitcoin transaction volume. That I think that's by dollars, so it might just be related to the per unit cost of Bitcoin or something like that. All right, let's see here some other stuff. Bitcoin transaction volume, daily transaction outputs, transaction fees collected. It's not just the price going down that's affecting the miners. It's also the transaction fees aren't that high as well. So that used to be a significant part of their income. It's dropped to very little as of this moment. Address reuse is continuing to go up. More segregated witness outputs, and that's just economic incentives at work. I mean, SegWit is cheaper, relatively speaking. Let's see, Coinbase consolidated a ton of transactions. UTXO keeps falling. May or may not be a good thing. It's probably bad for privacy in some ways, but it's probably good for dust outputs and things like that. So who knows exactly what's going on there. Bitcoin data anchoring. There's still people using op return. They're trying to do additional stuff on top of Bitcoin op return. Let's see. I know RSK has been doing something like that. Lightning Network obviously continues to grow. You got lots and lots of different channels and so on, and it continues to grow at an exponential rate. Obviously, the exponential growth will stop because nothing goes up that fast forever. But it's still in that growth phase, which is very encouraging. And if you haven't tried it, Lightning is a pretty cool way to pay and get paid really quickly. So very, very nice interface. And well, I mean, we're going to need more structure around it, but it's been very good so far. Version rolling, fiber, cost of node operation, Bitcoin economics. There's a lot of stuff in here. I would encourage you to take a look at the rest of it. But yeah, very good stuff. All right, this an article by Stepan Snigarev. Hardware wallets can be hacked, but this is fine. This is it's a kind of a follow-up to Wallet.fail. He wasn't a part of that or anything, but he's going through the best ways to attack hardware wallets and what mitigations there could be. Chosen nonce attack, very easy attack and a way for an attacker to figure out your private key based on that. But that only really works with single private key, which none of the hardware wallets use. But he comes up with another attack that would work for the mnemonic seeds that most hardware wallets use. And he's like, you only need about 64 transactions before you can compromise it if you had access to the hardware. So it ends up being like a significantly big vulnerability. I really hope the people at Trezor Ledger and Coldcard take a look at this, because it is like at the very least, they should make sure that these attacks are not possible on their hardware. Some mitigations are in here. Really good article. You're going to have to know some elliptic curve math to really understand it. But it's very clever, using commitments for K values and things like that. That would solve it quite a bit. All right, another one, another Medium article, Hugo Wen. Sort of philosophically dissecting Bitcoin and taking a look at Bitcoin in this paradigm of 3 sublayers of Bitcoin: randomness based on proof of work, public key cryptography, and some sort of incentive scheme. And it's a good article, an interesting way to separate Bitcoin. This whole series is really good, and if you haven't read Hugo, he's very good at explaining things. Like he is technical, but he also manages to make it understandable for maybe not so technical people. All right. Wasabi wallet hard fork. So this is a clever way of saying Wasabi is getting upgraded. This is a if you're not familiar with Wasabi, it's a desktop wallet that's very privacy preserving. It's a light wallet as well, and you need it connects over Tor. It does everything privacy related. So it's really cool. You should take a look at it. And I believe that they're going to eventually move to Schnorr signatures and everything else. But really, really clever stuff. And I'm probably going to move more towards Wasabi in the future, because I like what NodePower73 is doing and so on. All right, Relay Network. All right, so this is bitcoinfiber.org, which is run by Matt Corallo. And if you're not familiar with the Fiber network, it is a fast relay network with a lot of error correction and things like that to make it possible to relay blocks really, really quickly. And this is particularly useful for miners, because you're going to get notified of blocks really quickly, so you're not working on a block. You can use your mining equipment more efficiently. If you hear about a block like 10 seconds later, that's 10 seconds of wasted time, and that adds up really fast. So anyway, you can sort of see probability to transmit time. Like 50% of the time, you're going to get it in like 3.5 milliseconds, which is insane. Like web pages and things like don't work that fast, and that's like the level of speed that you can expect at like Google and things like that. So really, really good. Transmitted data used to transmit time, and obviously, it has a lot of compression and things which help quite a bit. But yeah, this is a log graph of transmitted data used to transmit time, and you can see that it's roughly linear. So very good for that. block size to transmit time, and obviously, this is right around like 1.4 megs is 1.5 megs. That's about the biggest block that we've mined so far, I think. So, this is how long it takes to transmit them, and this is why it's important to keep blocks relatively small. You can transmit 100 gigabyte blocks, but you also need to verify it, right? And this reduces the transmission time, but if you have large blocks, like really large blocks, it's going to be very hard to validate and know that you're not getting attacked and so on. It's a security measure, and it's a very good one. All right, relay times, first receive and process time, bytes used to. Yeah, I mean, these are graphs that you can study if you're a data scientist. It's a treasure trove of stuff. But all really good things. I would encourage you to spend some time looking at it and seeing how Bitcoin relay network compares to maybe some of this other stuff that you've seen on the internet. All right. Here's my first article for Bitcoin Magazine. So they rebranded themselves, to be more Bitcoin focused. And I wanted to make sure that I had something on their inaugural day of that. And that was, of course, January 3rd. But I wrote about Neutrino. And if you don't know what Neutrino is, it's another kind of protocol to make it possible for light wallets to to get data from full nodes without giving up their privacy. And it's not fully implemented yet, except in BTCD, but it's a very good protocol. There are some trade-offs. You do have to transmit more data back and forth, but this means that we're going to get better light wallets, and not just on Lightning, but on for normal Bitcoin wallets as well, or on-chain Bitcoin wallets as well. It was made by the Lightning developers for the Lightning network, but it can be used for any wallet, and it's just very, very useful. I'm working on a wallet like that, but yeah, I encourage you to take a look at this story because it's pretty cool as well. This one is by Nick Carter. Very interesting read. So Nick Carter made a bunch of predictions at the beginning of 2018, and he's just sort of revisiting a lot of those predictions. In particular, he said that here are the coins that I expect to go away. And he gave himself, I think, 7 out of 15, so about 50% from the field on projects that he thought would die that did versus that didn't. So Rye Blocks, IOTA, Verge. He just goes through like what they are, what happened, and who abandoned it, and whatever. So it's an interesting read to just sort of watch and see exactly what happened to some of these projects. Most of them are down more than 90%, and for good reason. They're not really that interesting or have delivered anything. So it's an interesting read if you have some morbid curiosity about altcoins. All right, here's another story. I think Dan Held is the one that pointed me to this one, but it was really eye-opening for me to learn about how darknet markets now function. It used to be, this goes through the history of darknet markets and what happened. So the period that you guys are probably most familiar with is 2011 to 2017. That's when the Silk Road was, and Alphabet, and all these things. And basically, you do the trading over the darknet, and somebody sends you a package, and et cetera, et cetera. That's how darknet markets work. What's happening in the last couple of years are something called drop gangs, which I didn't really even know what that was until I read this article. But apparently, it's a bunch of they have private Telegram groups or WeChat groups or whatever, and the way it works is they go and pre-hide some of their merchandise. So it might be, I don't know, a gram of cocaine or whatever, and they hide it in some public area, and they take pictures and so on. And when the customer pays, they give them instructions on how to go get it. So this is why it's called the drop gang, because they do all of the drops ahead of time, and the people that come in to collect are the customers, and like there's almost no real way to track those people down. It's a really clever use of sort of decentralization in many ways, because the people that do the drops of the drugs are completely separate from the people that are running like the Telegram groups and everything else. They just sort of get paid, and they don't know anything about each other and things like that. It's really fascinating. It's I think what decentralized autonomous organizations were supposed to be, kind of, except they're actually doing it, and without the use of a blockchain. All you need is like a Telegram group or something like that, and apparently it's a lot less fragile to invasion by federal law enforcement or something like that, because they only invite the people that they know to the Telegram group, and you do one bad transaction and you're kicked out or something like that. So I don't know. This is interesting to me for a number of reasons, but among others, I imagine this is kind of what trading Bitcoin in China is like, except without the need to actually hide the physical product and get it. If you're in a WeChat group in China and you need to grab some Bitcoin, this is probably how you do it, because exchanges are more or less banned there. So, like this may be the future of Bitcoin should it get banned by governments and so on. So interesting story. Encourage you to read it as well. All right. First look at the crypto mining malware ecosystem. So this is a paper about like what crypto mining malware is like and what's going on there. So you can take a look at the PDF. It's an interesting paper with some like botnets and all this other stuff, and how this whole thing works and what the economics are and so on. But it's almost always like Monero, because you can mine it with the CPU. So it's an interesting paper. Would encourage you to take a look at it. Anyway, that about does it for the actual newsletter. Let me show a couple of my own things. So programming blockchain, next two seminars are in Las Vegas and London. We are fast closing in on the 14-day, the discount rate for Las Vegas and the early bird rate for London. Please apply now if you are interested. Of course, my book is coming out. I finally got a forward written by a good friend of mine. The production process is ongoing. So it's available for sale on Amazon right now, and you can click through if you are interested. The two seminars are going to take place right around two conferences. Here is the first conference I'm going to be at, and this is Tone's conference in Las Vegas. I don't know why it keeps loading. There you go. And this is at the D Hotel in Las Vegas. This is more of a maximalist event. I would encourage you guys to attend if you can. And you can apparently pay with all sorts of things. All right. And the other one is Advancing Bitcoin. This is going to be in February. And this is more for developers, also more of a maximalist event. Lots of really good speakers. Stepan wrote that hardware wallet exploit article that I showed earlier. But yeah, a lot of really good people that are going to be coming, and you should try to come. I mean, look at these endorsements. All All right, so yeah, I'm going to be speaking on Neutrino. I'll show some code that I've written and try to explain it. Maybe I'll do a little bit of Dandelion as well if I get a chance. But yeah, please come to both of these. There's going to be carnivory dinners at both. All right, so let's take a look at some questions you guys might have. What's up with the Ethereum Classic attack? Well, yeah, so that came through the wire pretty recently, but apparently Ethereum Classic has had multiple reorgs of 100 blocks or more. Not really surprising because their hash rate is probably very, very tiny compared to Ethereum. So, I mean, it's the sort of thing that, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? Like that's kind of what you get out of it. Yeah, I think Bitcoin Ethereum Classics at around $5 or something like that. That still seems way too high. Let me just check what the U.S. dollar value of the market cap is. It's still $500 million. That's just way too high for something that very few people use. So I don't know. I like you're gonna see more attacks like this as people figure out ways to get around a lot of that stuff. And all right. Let's see. Will it be possible to run a full node on a smartphone in the future? I think so. I mean, right now, prune mode is around 11 gigabytes. That's doable for most smartphones, right? It's just that no one's ported it to Android or made it possible to run. But I think a full node can very much be done there. It's a matter of writing the software and making it more friendly towards prune mode and things like that. Certainly something like a UTXO commitment every block would be very helpful. If you've ever downloaded a full node, you'll notice that it takes, I think, around 4 or 5 hours these days. The actual download of the blockchain only takes like a couple hours. The vast majority of that time is spent in validating the blocks and coming up with the UTXO set that you need in order to check for double spends and so on. If there were a commitment to that, downloading would be faster, pruning would be faster. Yeah, so it's an interesting idea. We'll see. I mean, it requires some engineering on the part of software on multiple fronts to make that happen, but it is definitely possible. All right, let's see. Do you still contribute as a developer tester for Bitcoin Core? Yeah, once in a while. So, I mean, I made it one of my goals last year to learn enough C++ that I can take a look at some of that stuff. So I do review code more so than write. And I don't do it that often, but I do it every couple weeks or something like that. I'll look at a pull request and so on and try to understand it and figure out what's going on and then do something with it. I have like 7 other projects, and part of my doing these seminars is to create more core developers instead of doing the core development myself. Now, at some point, I'm probably going to need to dive much deeper into stuff like Lightning, Neutrino, Dandelion, things like that, just so I could understand it, so I could teach other people. And it might be useful at that point to actually review some of the pull requests coming in for that stuff. But for now, it's a small slice of my time, but it is there. All right. Since when BTC got decentralized? Probably when Satoshi left. All right. Let's see. Other stuff. How about how BTC will lead to global warming and will prevent Trump from building a wall? I could get $1 billion for that. Honestly, Bitcoin doesn't care about either of those things. So let's see here. Where is the other stuff? How do Schnorr signature implementations need a soft fork or a hard fork? Well, The nice thing is SegWit made it so that almost everything can be done as a nice soft fork and without as much contention. So we're right now on SegWit version 0, which has pay to witness pubkey hash and pay to witness script hash. SegWit version 1 will also have Schnorr signatures. We'll have maybe Taproot, Graftroot, things like that. There's a lot of stuff coming as a part of SegWit version 1. So, and that will definitely be a soft fork. I think Anthony Towns or AJ on the mailing list wrote out his proposal for SegWit version 1. I think that a lot of people are in agreement on. So that's probably where it's going to go. All right, let's see. Are there somewhere some preview pages of your book? Yes, you can just go to my GitHub, github.com, Jimmy Song, Programming Bitcoin, and it has the entire book there. So you, if you know how to use ASCII Doctor, you can download it on your computer and compile a PDF and read the whole book. So it's open source for a reason. So yeah, go take a look at it that way. All right. Let's see. So coins that control most of their algos hash rate and are decentralized are good. Well, the only coin that's decentralized is Bitcoin, and that one is good. But yeah, I don't think that question really makes sense. Pros and cons of a prune node. So what is a prune node? A prune node basically keeps the state of where the bills are. So if you think about a ledger, you have all of this history in the ledger, right? Like, Alice paid Bob some amount of Bitcoins, and then Bob paid Charlie some amount of Bitcoins or something like that. Really, the only thing you need to keep track of to keep the ledger current is who has the money right now, right? And that's the UTXO set. That's, I have this many coins, and like this address has this many coins, or this address has this many coins, and so on. That set is the most important part. So the pro of a prune node is that you don't need as much space. So I think I don't know. Last I checked, it's a lot less than 200 gigabytes that you need to run a full node. Prune node, I think it is stable at around 8 or 9 gigabytes or something like that. But the con is that you don't know any of the history. So if you're a wallet, you kind of want to know the history, especially if you're importing keys or something like that. But oftentimes you can keep that separately, and you don't need to know about everyone's history. You just need to know about your own. So yeah, that's not a bad trade-off. And you still do all of the full validation as a prune node, but it takes up less space. I think there was Damien Nee, I think he wrote an article a while back about how to run a prune node on a Raspberry Pi. So what you end up doing is you get like a 32 gigabyte SD card, put it on a Raspberry Pi, compile Bitcoin, then run it in prune mode, and then you have a full node running on a Raspberry Pi, which is really pretty good given like how little CPU power and stuff that it has. Do you see any negative effects of Veriblock's so-called proof of proof system? Well, I mean, they have to spend money in order to get it in there. Eventually, they'll be priced out, is my guess. I don't know how useful their service is, so who knows? I mean, Omni and Factom, I think, have been putting stuff in blocks for years. So if there's a business model around them, then possibly. Hi, Jimmy. Would you show us your Lightning setup? Well, I do have a Lightning setup. All right, so that might be fun. Let me see if I can get something up here. All right, give me one sec. I am going to have to go find it first. Okay, yeah, there we go. Here it is. And I need to put that into, how do I share it? So I have it on a different virtual desktop, so I have to go and move this thing over. Yeah, there we go. I just have to do that. And there we are. And let me share this with you. All right, here is. All right, so this is my my Knodel, and this is a hardware device that I got from this website, Knodel.it. So they only manufacture 21 of them, and basically I got one of them. But yeah, it's a really cool little device that lets me do a whole setup. This is what the interface looks like. They just updated it to have Ride the Lightning, which, you know what, I'm gonna install. But it comes with a BTC Pay server, and I haven't set up that much. I do want to run a Lightning store eventually. There's also like system information. Also have a Joule extension running with that, so I can send and receive money. I'm connected to Lightning Power users. If you're not familiar with that, that is Pierre Rochard's node. But that's my setup right now. I want to like make a small Lightning application eventually and be able to teach it. So that's something that that I want to be able to do. But yeah, between Joule, Knodel, I was trying to use Zap Wallet, but something went wrong with that, so I had to open the channel directly using LND and SSHing into the Knodel box. It's not quite ready for prime time, but if you're curious and want something that's easy to set up, it's a really cool little device, and you can see what it looks. Where's like an actual picture of it? Yeah, I think. Let's see the box. Yeah, yeah. So that's what it looks like. It's very simple, and essentially you just turn it on and plug in an Ethernet cable, and you get this thing, and then you install everything and get everything up and running. They don't ship with the entire blockchain on there or anything like that. You download it yourself, but it's a full node. It's got light LND on it, and BTC Pay server, and also it looks like Ride the Lightning. So lots of cool stuff, and that's my current setup. I'll probably be experimenting with other ones as well. All right, let's see other stuff. Can you do? Yeah, I do this video every Monday. So yeah, what do you recommend to safely mix your coins for more privacy? I would recommend Wasabi Wallet for now, though I haven't played with it too much. I do have it downloaded, and I plan to put some coins through it and see how it does, especially with AML KYC on exchanges and so on. But yeah, that's pretty good for now. We'll have a lot more privacy related features coming into Bitcoin in the next year. All right, let's see here. How many years away is BTC from privacy layering? Well, I mean, you could get something on a sidechain right now. It's just no one's working on it. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, you should totally make a business. Here's my sidechain. It's federated, and you can mix coins and get it out for some fee. I mean, it's really how the free market should work. You should, if you want it to exist, go and make it. Right? Go build. Is Wimble is kind of a UTXO only coin? Yeah, it is, and the weird thing about Wimble is you have to be online to receive money. There's no addresses. So someone wants to pay you, they have to sort of communicate with you first, and you have to agree on a couple things, and then they can send you money. So it's very different, and the history is basically always pruned away. So it's kind of like Bitcoin always running on prune mode. But you have no access to history unless you store it yourself. All right, extremist zealot. Yeah, I don't really care about that. All right. Yeah, so that's about it. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. It's been an interesting 40 minutes or so that I've been doing this show for I mean it's something that I've been doing for a few weeks. Tune in next Monday. I'll try to keep the time slot the same, 2 p.m. Central Time. Every Monday after my newsletter goes out, so we can sort of review some of the things that, at least for me, were interesting from a technical perspective. Probably not necessarily for the general audience, like the articles that we review on the Daily Show on Tone's channel. So this is meant to be more technical. Eventually maybe I'll have like a guest or two and then ask them about certain things. But that's the plan for the show, is to keep it going and make sure at least I have some contact with all of you guys that are in the audience. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. I don't know if you noticed my new hat, but this is a particular type of cowboy hat called a silver belly, which I'm very excited about because I really only had like the straw white hat and felt black hat. So the straw white hat is more for the summer and the felt black hat was for the winter. Now I have something for the winter that's more white hat, especially when I go to conferences and I want to encourage people instead of crapping on their projects when like I do with the black hat. Anyway, hope that is useful to you guys. Thank you for watching. This song is done.